John and Maria Rodriguez stepped out of their old, dusty pickup truck and looked at the shiny glass building of luxury motors. The sun made the windows sparkle like diamonds. Inside those windows were some of the most expensive cars in the world. John wore faded blue jeans with holes in the knees, an old t-shirt that had seen better days, and work boots covered in dirt. Maria had her hair tied back simply, wore no makeup, and dressed in plain jeans and a basic sweater. They didn't look rich. Not at all. "Are you sure about this, Maria?" John asked, closing the truck door with a loud creak. "Yes," Maria said with a smile. "Let's see how they treat us today." What no one at Luxury Motors knew was that John and Maria were worth over $50 million. They owned 6 successful businesses across the state and had more money in their bank account than most people would see in 10 lifetimes. But they never showed off their wealth. They lived in a nice but modest home. They sent their kids to public schools, and they always dressed like ordinary people. "Remember when we couldn't afford to put gas in our car?" John said, looking at the shiny Ferraris through the window. "Those were the days," Maria laughed, eating ramen noodles for dinner every night. They had started with nothing 20 years ago, just 2 kids from poor families with big dreams. They worked hard, saved every penny, and slowly built their fortune through smart business deals and real estate. But they never forgot where they came from. "Let's have some fun," John said with a mischievous smile. They pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped into the showroom. The floor was so clean they could see their reflections. Soft music played. The air smelled like expensive leather and new cars. 5 salespeople stood around, all wearing perfect black suits. Every one of them looked at John and Maria, then quickly looked away. "Good morning," Maria said to a tall man with slicked back hair. He nodded slightly but didn't reply. Instead, he turned and walked toward a couple in designer clothes who had just entered. John and Maria walked slowly around the showroom. They stopped to admire a bright red Lamborghini. The price tag showed $375,000. John whistled. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Maria said, running her hand over the smooth paint. A young salesman named Derek watched them from across the room. He frowned when Maria touched the car. After a moment, he walked over. "Please don't touch the merchandise," he said coldly. "This vehicle is very expensive." "How expensive?" John asked. Derek looked at John's dirty boots and torn jeans. His lips turned up in a small smirk. "This particular model starts at $375,000, he said. "Perhaps you might be more comfortable at our used car lot down the street." Maria's eyes flashed with anger, but John put his hand on her arm. "Actually," John said quietly, "we're interested in buying this car today. In cash." Derek laughed. It wasn't a friendly laugh. "Right," he said, "and I'm the King of England." He started to walk away when the showroom manager approached. His name tag read Richard Blackwell. "Is there a problem here?" Richard asked, looking between Derek and the shabby-looking couple. "No problem," Derek said. "I was just explaining to these folks that we have more suitable options elsewhere." Richard looked at John and Maria's clothes and nodded in agreement. "Perhaps I can help direct you to something more appropriate for your budget," he suggested. John pulled out his phone. It was an old model with a cracked screen. He tapped a few buttons, then held it up to show the manager. "Would this budget work for you?" he asked. Richard's eyes grew wide as he looked at the screen. There in the banking app was an account balance of $17,543,209.88. The manager's mouth fell open as he suddenly realized his terrible mistake. Richard Blackwell's face turned as red as the Lamborghini beside them. He quickly fixed his tie and tried to smile, but it looked forced and nervous. "Mr. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name," he stammered. "Rodriguez. John and Maria Rodriguez," John said calmly. "Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez, Richard said, suddenly very polite. "Please forgive the misunderstanding. We would be honored to help you today." Derek, the rude salesman, stood nearby with his mouth open in shock. He couldn't believe what was happening. "Actually," John said, "we're looking at several cars today. Not just the Lamborghini." Richard nodded quickly. "Of course. Please, come to my private office. I'll have someone bring us coffee." As they walked across the showroom, everyone stared at them. The couple in designer clothes who had been helped first looked confused. The other salespeople whispered to each other. John and Maria just smiled. Richard's office was large with leather chairs and pictures of expensive cars on the walls. A young woman brought in a tray with coffee and fancy cups. "So," Richard said, "you're interested in the Lamborghini Huracan. Excellent choice. It has a V10 engine with 630 horsepower and can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 2.9 seconds. Maria sipped her coffee. "And what about that silver Mercedes we saw? The AMG model?" "Ah, the S63 AMG. Another spectacular vehicle," Richard said eagerly. "It has all the luxury features you could want, plus a powerful engine. Perfect for daily driving." John nodded. "We'd like to see both up close, and we might be interested in a third car for our daughter. She's starting college next month." Richard's eyes lit up. 3 car sales in one day would be a huge commission. He was already calculating the money in his head. "Of course. Whatever you need," he said. "May I ask, Mr. Rodriguez, what business you're in?" John smiled. "Real estate, mostly. We own some apartment buildings, shopping centers, that sort of thing." What John didn't mention was that they owned over 50 properties worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Their some apartment buildings were actually 15 large complexes across 3 states. "And you prefer to dress casually?" Richard asked carefully. Maria laughed. "We grew up poor, Mr. Blackwell. Very poor. These clothes feel normal to us. Plus, it helps us see how people really are." "What do you mean?" Richard asked. "Well," John explained, "when you're dressed like this, people show their true character. Some treat you poorly because they think you have no money. Others are kind regardless of what you wear. It tells you a lot about a person." Richard looked uncomfortable. He knew he had failed that test badly. "I understand," he said quietly. "Again, I apologize for how you were treated." Maria leaned forward. "Speaking of that, where is Derek?" "The young man who suggested we go to the used car lot." Richard swallowed hard. "I can have him removed from your service immediately. You won't have to deal with him again." "Actually," John said with a smile that wasn't entirely friendly, "we'd like him to handle the paperwork for all 3 cars." "But why?" Richard asked, confused. "Let's just say it will be educational for him," Maria said. "And we want him to know exactly how much commission he almost lost by judging us." Richard nodded slowly. "I'll call him in right away. And perhaps you'd like to test drive the vehicles first." "Yes," John said. "But first, we have a phone call to make. Do you know Marcus Johnson?" Richard's eyes widened. "Marcus Johnson, the owner of our dealership group." John nodded and pulled out his phone. "He's an old friend. I think he'll be interested to hear about our visit today." Richard's face went pale. This day had just gotten much more complicated. John pulled out his old phone and dialed a number. He put the call on speaker so Richard could hear. Marcus Johnson's office. A woman's voice answered. "Hi, Lisa. It's John Rodriguez. Is Marcus available?" "Mr. Rodriguez. Of course. Let me get him right away." Richard's eyes grew even wider. The caller knew Marcus's assistant by name. After a few seconds, a deep voice came through the phone. "John, how are you, my friend? How was your trip to Europe?" "It was wonderful, Marcus. Maria loved Paris. Listen, I'm actually sitting in your downtown luxury motors dealership right now." There was a pause. "Oh, and how is everything there?" John looked at Richard, whose face had gone from pale to almost green. "Well, it's been interesting. We came in dressed casually, as usual. The welcome wasn't very warm until they saw our bank account." Marcus sighed loudly. "I'm very sorry to hear that, John. This isn't how I want my businesses run." "I know, Marcus. That's why I'm calling. I thought you should know." "Who's the manager there today?" Marcus asked. "Richard Blackwell," John replied. "He's sitting across from me right now." Marcus's voice became serious. "Put him on, please." John handed the phone to Richard, who took it with a shaking hand. Hello, Mr. Johnson." John and Maria couldn't hear what Marcus was saying, but they could see Richard's face turn from green to white. He was nodding quickly. "Yes, sir. I understand completely. It won't happen again." "Yes, sir. I'll handle it personally." "Thank you, sir." Richard handed the phone back to John. "John," Marcus said, "I want you to know this isn't acceptable. Everyone who walks through our doors deserves respect, regardless of what they're wearing." "I appreciate that, Marcus. You've always been fair." "Are you still planning to buy a car today?" John smiled at Maria. "Actually, we're thinking about 3. Marcus laughed. "Excellent. Tell you what, I'm coming down there myself. Don't sign anything until I arrive. I want to make sure you get our best deals. And I'll bring the paperwork for that other matter we discussed." "Perfect. See you soon, Marcus." John hung up and looked at Richard, who seemed confused and worried. "What other matter?" Richard asked carefully. John put his phone away. "Oh, didn't I mention it? My investment company is buying a 30% stake in the Johnson Auto Group. Marcus and I have been working on the deal for months." Richard nearly fell out of his chair. The Johnson Auto Group owned 12 luxury car dealerships across the state, including this one. This shabby-dressed man would soon be one of his bosses. I had no idea," Richard stammered. "Few people do," Maria said. "We prefer to keep a low profile." Just then, there was a knock at the office door. Derek entered, looking uncomfortable. "You asked to see me, Mr. Blackwell." Richard cleared his throat. "Yes, Derek. Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez would like you to handle their purchase today." Derek looked at the couple in their worn clothes, still confused. "Their purchase?" "Yes," Richard said firmly. "They will be buying 3 vehicles. The Lamborghini, the Mercedes-AMG, and a 3rd car for their daughter." Derek's jaw dropped. 3 cars? But they what, Derek? Maria asked with a sweet smile that didn't reach her eyes. Derek swallowed hard. "Nothing, ma'am. I'd be happy to help." "Good," John said. "And while we wait for Mr. Johnson to arrive, why don't you show us that 3rd car we mentioned? Our daughter starts college soon. She needs something safe but stylish." "Mr. Johnson is coming here today." Derek looked like he might faint. "Yes," Maria said. "He's a good friend of ours. Now, about that car for our daughter." Derek led John and Maria to the section of the showroom with smaller luxury cars. His hands were shaking as he pointed to different models. "This BMW is very popular with college students," he said, trying to sound confident. "Or perhaps the Audi A3. Both are safe and stylish." John looked at a bright blue Porsche Macan. "What about this one?" "The Porsche?" Derek's voice cracked. That's $72,000. "Is that a problem?" Maria asked innocently. "No, not at all," Derek said quickly. "It's an excellent choice. Very safe, very reliable." While they were looking at the car, a young woman approached them. She wore a simple black suit and had a kind smile. Her name tag said Sarah. "Good morning," she said to Maria. "Would you like a bottle of water while you look around?" Maria looked surprised. This was the first person who had been nice to them without knowing they were rich. "That would be lovely, thank you," Maria said. Sarah brought waters for both of them, still smiling. "I love that Porsche color. My brother has one in green. He says it drives like a dream." "Do you work with Derek?" John asked. Yes, I started 3 months ago, Sarah said. I'm still learning, but I love cars. Derek looked annoyed. I've got this, Sarah. You can help other customers. Sarah nodded politely. Of course. Enjoy your visit, she said to John and Maria before walking away. She seems nice, Maria said, watching Sarah go. Derek forced a smile. Now, about the Porsche. Would you like to see the interior? He opened the door, and John sat in the driver's seat. The leather was soft, and the dashboard had many screens and buttons. Our daughter will love this, John said to Maria. What do you think? It's perfect, Maria agreed. Let's add it to our list. Just then, the front doors of the showroom opened. A tall man in an expensive suit walked in. Everyone in the showroom straightened up immediately. It was Marcus Johnson himself. John, Maria, Marcus called, walking toward them with his arms open. They hugged like old friends. Derek stood nearby, looking more nervous than ever. I see you're looking at the Macan, Marcus said. Great choice for a college student. We think Sophia will love it, Maria said. Marcus turned to Derek. And you must be the salesman helping my friends today. Derek nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Derek Wilson. Marcus looked at him with serious eyes. I understand there was some unpleasantness earlier. It was a misunderstanding, John said, though his tone suggested otherwise. I see, Marcus said. He turned back to Derek. Mr. Wilson, in my company, we judge people by their character, not their clothes. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Absolutely clear, Derek said, his voice small. Good. Now let's talk about these cars, Marcus said. He turned to John and Maria. I've prepared a special package for all 3 vehicles, and I'd like to invite you to our VIP preview event next month. We're getting the first shipment of the new Ferrari model. As they walked back toward Richard's office, Marcus stopped suddenly. Oh, I almost forgot. Where's that young lady who brought you water? Sarah, Maria said. She was very kind. Marcus nodded. I'd like to meet her. Richard, who had been following them, quickly called Sarah over. She looked nervous as she approached the group. Sarah, Marcus said, I understand you were helpful to Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez today. I just offered them water, sir, she said simply. That's exactly what I want to hear, Marcus said with a smile. From now on, you'll be handling all of the Rodriguez family's automotive needs, and I think we should talk about your future with the company. Sarah's eyes widened. Thank you, sir. Derek's face fell as he realized what was happening. The news spread quickly through Luxury Motors. By the time John and Maria left with Marcus, everyone knew the story. The couple in old clothes had bought 3 expensive cars and now owned part of the company. The salespeople who had ignored them looked sick with regret. Did you see their faces? Maria laughed as they walked to their old pickup truck. Marcus shook his head. I'm still embarrassed by how they treated you. I need to make some changes at that dealership. Don't be too hard on Richard, John said. I think he learned his lesson today. Maybe, Marcus said. But Derek is another story. They agreed to meet at the Golden Plate, an expensive restaurant downtown, at 7 o'clock that evening. John and Maria would bring their daughter Sophia to surprise her with the news about her new car. As Marcus drove away in his sleek black Bentley, John and Maria climbed into their dusty pickup truck. A few salespeople watched through the windows, looking confused. Why would Millionaires still drive such an old vehicle? Should we go home and change before dinner? Maria asked as they pulled out of the parking lot. John thought for a moment. No, let's stay like this. It's who we are. When they arrived home, their house surprised no one who knew them. It was nice but modest. A 4-bedroom home in a good neighborhood. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed, we're rich. Inside, it was comfortable and clean, filled with family photos and simple furniture. Their daughter Sophia was in her room, packing for college. She was 18, smart, and had her parents' down-to-earth attitude. She looked up when they knocked on her door. How was car shopping? she asked. "Did you find anything?" "We've got a surprise," Maria said with a smile. "But you'll have to wait until dinner to find out. We're meeting Marcus at the Golden Plate at 7. Sophia's eyes widened. The Golden Plate. That's the fanciest restaurant in town. And why are we meeting Mr. Johnson? You'll see, John said with a wink. Wear something nice. At 6:30, they got ready for dinner. Sophia wore a simple blue dress. John and Maria, however, didn't change. They stayed in their worn jeans and old shirts. "Aren't you going to change?" Sophia asked, looking at their clothes with worry. "No," John said. "We're going just like this." "But Dad," Sophia protested, "the Golden Plate is super fancy. They might not even let you in dressed like that." Maria smiled. "Trust us, honey. We have a reason." They drove to the restaurant in their old pickup. When they pulled up to the valet parking, the young man in the uniform looked at their truck with surprise. "We're here to meet Marcus Johnson," John said, handing him the keys. The valet's attitude changed immediately. "Of course, sir. Mr. Johnson is already inside." As they walked toward the entrance, Sophia whispered, "I can't believe we're going into the Golden Plate dressed like this." "Watch and learn," Maria said with a smile. The host at the door looked at John and Maria's clothes with a frown. He was about to say something when Marcus appeared behind him. "John, Maria, and this must be Sophia," Marcus said loudly. Come in, come in. Your table is ready." The host's face changed from disapproval to shock. Marcus Johnson was one of the richest men in the city, and he was greeting these people in old clothes like dear friends. As they followed Marcus to their table, every head in the restaurant turned to look at them. People in expensive suits and dresses stared at John and Maria's worn jeans and faded shirts. Marcus led them to the best table in the restaurant, right in the center where everyone could see them. A waiter rushed over with menus and water. He looked at John and Maria's clothes with surprise but said nothing. "So," Marcus said to Sophia, "your parents tell me you're starting college next month. What will you study?" "Business and engineering," Sophia replied. "I want to understand both sides of running a company." "Smart girl," Marcus said with approval. "Just like your parents." The waiter came back to take their orders. He was polite but kept glancing at John's torn jeans and Maria's simple shirt. Marcus ordered an expensive bottle of wine to celebrate. "Celebrate what?" Sophia asked, looking between her parents and Marcus. John smiled. "Well, honey, we have some news. First, we bought a new car today." "That's great," Sophia said. "What kind?" "A Lamborghini," Maria said casually, taking a sip of water. Sophia's mouth fell open. "A what?" "And a Mercedes-AMG," John added. "And a Porsche Macan." Sophia looked completely confused. "3 cars? Why would we need 3 cars?" Marcus was enjoying the conversation, smiling as he watched. "Well," John explained, "the Lamborghini is for me. The Mercedes is for your mom. And the Porsche." He paused for effect. "The Porsche is for you." Sophia almost choked on her water. "For me? A Porsche? Dad, those cost more than most houses." "Consider it an early graduation present," Maria said. "You've worked so hard in school. You deserve it." Sophia shook her head in disbelief. But how? I mean, we've always been careful with money. This doesn't make sense." John and Maria exchanged looks. It was time for the truth. "Honey," John said gently, "there's something we haven't told you. We're not just doing okay. We're very wealthy." "What do you mean by very wealthy?" Sophia asked, her eyes narrowing. "Your parents," Marcus cut in, "are worth over $50 million. And today, they bought a 30% stake in my auto group for another $20 million. Sophia sat back in her chair, stunned. $50 million. But we live in a normal house. We shop at regular stores. I had a job at the mall last summer. We wanted you to grow up with normal values," Maria explained. to understand the worth of hard work. Money changes how people see you and treat you. Like today at the car dealership, John added. The salespeople ignored us because of how we dressed. They thought we couldn't afford their cars. But one person was nice to us, Maria said. A young woman named Sarah. She offered us water and was kind without knowing who we were. And now she has a promising career ahead of her, Marcus added. That's how life works sometimes. Kindness matters more than appearances. Sophia was quiet for a moment, processing everything. So all these years, when my friends had fancier things, and I thought we were just average. We were teaching you what matters, John said. And you turned out wonderfully. You're smart, kind, and hardworking. That's worth more than any amount of money. Just then, the waiter arrived with their food. As he placed the plates on the table, a woman from a nearby table approached them. She was dressed in expensive clothes and jewelry. Excuse me, she said to Marcus. I don't mean to interrupt, but aren't you Marcus Johnson? Marcus smiled at the woman. Yes, I am. How can I help you? The woman was in her 50s, wearing diamonds and a designer dress. I'm Victoria Hartwell. My husband and I are hosting the charity gala next month. We'd love for you to attend. Marcus nodded politely. Thank you for the invitation. I'll check my calendar. Victoria smiled, then looked at John and Maria with confusion. Their clothes clearly didn't match the restaurant's fancy atmosphere. And these are? She asked, her voice suggesting they didn't belong. My dear friends and business partners, Marcus said firmly. John and Maria Rodriguez. Victoria's smile faltered. Oh, I don't believe we've met. Probably not, John said simply. We don't attend many social events. Victoria looked at their clothes again, clearly judging them. Are you new to the city? No, Maria said. We've lived here for 20 years. Victoria seemed puzzled. Before she could say more, Marcus spoke up. John and Maria just bought a 30% stake in my auto group today, and 3 of my most expensive cars. Victoria's eyes widened. She looked at their worn jeans and old shirts again, now with completely different eyes. I see, she said, her tone changing instantly. Well, we would love to have you at the gala too. It's for children's education. Tickets are $5,000 each. John and Maria exchanged looks. They knew exactly what was happening. Actually, John said, we already donate $2 million each year to the city schools. We prefer to give directly to the cause. Victoria looked shocked. $2 million. I had no idea. We like to keep a low profile, Maria explained. It's not about recognition. Victoria was now looking at them with clear respect and interest. Well, I'd love to talk more about your philanthropic work sometime. Here's my card. After she left, Sophia burst out laughing. That was amazing. Did you see her face when she found out you were rich? People are often quick to judge, Marcus said, and quick to change their minds when money is involved. They enjoyed their dinner, talking about Sophia's college plans and the new cars. Several other people stopped by their table, all friends of Marcus. Each one looked surprised at John and Maria's clothes, but quickly became friendly when they learned who they were. By the end of the night, Sophia understood what her parents had been teaching her all these years. Money changed how people saw you, but it didn't change who you really were. As they were leaving, their waiter handed John the bill. It was over $800 for their dinner. John left a $500 tip. Why such a big tip? Sophia asked as they walked out. Because he treated us with respect from the beginning, John explained, even though we weren't dressed like his usual customers. In the parking lot, the valet brought their old pickup truck. Next to all the luxury cars, it looked completely out of place. People stared as they climbed in. Tomorrow, we'll pick up our new cars, Maria told Sophia. But we're keeping this truck too. As a reminder, Sophia asked. John nodded. A reminder of where we came from, and that what truly matters isn't what you have or how you look. As they drove home, Sophia thought about everything she had learned. Her parents weren't just rich in money. They were rich in wisdom, too. The next morning, John, Maria, and Sophia drove to Luxury Motors to pick up their new cars. They still wore casual clothes, jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers. This time, however, they were greeted very differently. As soon as they walked through the doors, Richard Blackwell rushed over to welcome them. "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez, and this must be Sophia. We have everything ready for you." The showroom was spotless, and all the staff stood at attention. Derek was there too, looking nervous in a perfectly pressed suit. "Your cars are ready for delivery," Richard said. "Would you like to see them?" He led them to a special area where the 3 cars were displayed: the bright red Lamborghini, the silver Mercedes-AMG, and the blue Porsche Macan. They gleamed under the lights, and a small crowd of staff watched from a distance. "They're beautiful," Sophia whispered, touching the Porsche with careful fingers. Sarah approached with a friendly smile. "Good morning. I've prepared all the paperwork and made sure each car is perfect. The Porsche has a full tank of gas and is ready to go." "Thank you, Sarah," Maria said warmly. Derek stepped forward. "I've also added some complimentary accessories for each vehicle," he said, trying to sound helpful. "Premium floor mats, window tinting, and the extended warranty package." John nodded but didn't say much to Derek. Instead, he turned to Sarah. "Would you mind showing Sophia the features of her new car?" "I'd be happy to," Sarah said, opening the door of the Porsche for Sophia. While Sarah explained the car to Sophia, Marcus Johnson arrived. "Good morning, everyone," he called out. "I wanted to be here for this special delivery." He shook hands with John and Maria, then turned to the staff. "I have an announcement to make. As many of you know, John and Maria Rodriguez are now partners in our business. But what you may not know is that they've decided to make some changes." The staff looked worried, especially Derek. "First," Marcus continued, "we're implementing a new customer service policy. Every customer, regardless of how they dress or look, will receive the same excellent treatment. Anyone who fails to follow this policy will be let go immediately." Derek swallowed hard. "Second," Marcus said, "we're creating a new training program to help our staff recognize that appearances aren't everything. Sarah will be leading this program." Sarah looked surprised and pleased. "And finally," Marcus finished, "we're establishing a scholarship fund for young people who want to work in the automotive industry but can't afford training. The Rodriguez family has generously donated $1 million to start this fund." Everyone applauded. Richard looked relieved that his dealership was getting this positive attention rather than being punished for the previous day's mistakes. After all the paperwork was completed, it was time to leave. Sophia got into her new Porsche, her eyes shining with excitement. Maria took the keys to the Mercedes. John, however, walked over to their old pickup truck. "Aren't you taking the Lamborghini?" Richard asked, confused. "Not today," John said. "I think I'll drive my truck a little longer. It reminds me of something important." As they drove away, Sophia in her Porsche, Maria in her Mercedes, and John in his old pickup, the staff at Luxury Motors watched them go. The story of the disguised millionaires spread throughout the city in the days that followed. Other businesses began training their staff to treat all customers with respect, regardless of how they looked or dressed. And John and Maria, they continued to live as they always had, modestly and kindly, using their wealth to help others rather than to show off. They kept their old pickup truck parked right next to their new luxury cars, a daily reminder that true value has nothing to do with appearances. The group moved to a large conference room with a big table and comfortable chairs. Richard quickly had coffee and snacks brought in. Derek stood in the corner, looking like he wanted to disappear. Sarah sat at the table, still surprised by her sudden good fortune. "Now," Marcus said, spreading some papers on the table, "let's talk about the deal. 3 cars at special prices." He wrote numbers on a sheet and showed it to John. John looked at the prices and nodded. Very fair, Marcus. Thank you. The total for all three cars was over $625,000, but Marcus had given them a significant discount. And here are the papers for our business deal, Marcus said, pulling out another folder. The 30% stake in Johnson Auto Group, all ready for your signature. Richard's eyes grew even wider. The business deal was real. This man in torn jeans was about to become a major owner of the company. While they sign, I'd like a word with you, Marcus said to Richard, walking him to the corner of the room. John couldn't hear what Marcus was saying, but Richard kept nodding and saying, "Yes, sir," over and over. When they returned to the table, Richard looked both relieved and worried. "Mr. Rodriguez," Richard said, "I want to apologize again for how you were treated today. I promise it will never happen again." "I hope not," John said. "Not just for us, but for anyone who walks through those doors." As they finished the paperwork for the cars, Maria turned to Sarah. "Tell us about yourself, Sarah. How do you like working here?" Sarah smiled. "I love it. Cars have always been my passion. My dad was a mechanic, and I grew up helping him in his shop." "You know a lot about engines, then?" John asked. "Yes, sir. I can take apart and rebuild most engines. That's why I wanted to work here. These cars are like works of art to me." Marcus looked impressed. "We need more people with that kind of passion and knowledge. Sarah, I think you might be ready for more responsibility." Sarah blushed. "Thank you, sir." Meanwhile, Derek was trying to make himself useful, bringing water and offering to get anything they needed. No one was paying much attention to him. After all the papers were signed, Marcus stood up. "Well, that's done. John and Maria, you now own 3 beautiful cars and 30% of my company." "We should celebrate," John said. "How about dinner tonight? We can bring Sophia to see her new car." "Wonderful idea," Marcus agreed. "I know a great place downtown." As they were making plans, John turned to Derek. "You'll make sure the cars are ready for pickup tomorrow." Derek nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. First thing in the morning." "Good," John said. "And I think you should work with Sarah on this. She seems to know her stuff." Derek looked shocked that he would have to work with the newest employee, but he didn't argue. As they prepared to leave, John and Maria stopped by Sarah's chair. "Thank you for your kindness today," Maria said. "It means a lot." "It was nothing," Sarah said. "Just doing my job." "No," John said. "You were doing more than your job. You were being a good person. That's rare and valuable." Before Sarah could respond, John handed her a card. "If you ever need anything, call this number. We're always looking for good people in our businesses." Sarah took the card with wide eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez." As John and Maria walked out with Marcus, the entire showroom watched them go. The couple in their shabby clothes had turned out to be the most important customers of the year, maybe even of the decade.